is that more on the improvised part or the flow of the movement?
It's the expression to the music in full. So contemporary dance to me is like the highest peak of dance, because I think of dance as responding to and expressing and at times adding to the music. And in contemporary, you can do all of those things. So there's obviously use of the body is important, but I guess it's not so much gymnastics of it. If that's kind of what you mean.
No.
The expression, like it doesn't have to be difficult thing to do with your body, but as long as you're doing something that really shows you the music. Like I often, what I love most about tango is that when it feels right, it feels like I'm circulating the music in my body, like I'm passing it through my body. Like that's the ultimate feeling for me. And having moved to New Zealand has perhaps potentially made me focus on music more. Like as I was saying, it's almost unintuitively perhaps for some that I think I've focused on music a lot more since I've been in New Zealand than I ever was in Turkey.
So someone in Australia, I think, that apparently always that beginners, they teach milonga first. I was thinking about the other day, which is in a way logical because it doesn't require cross-system that much. It doesn't require ochos necessarily. So it's much more square and stepwise. So it could be a good way to ease into it in a way.
And it's fast. Like when I think about so many instances of where my students have said, we had the first good dance where we weren't overthinking, and it was almost always a milonga. And when I thought about it, I think it's because, when you're in a learning environment, your mind is necessarily really engaged. But milonga doesn't leave you time. So you have to go for it.
You have to go for it.
You have to go for it. And it does actually sometimes take away some of the overthinking. So milonga is a very good tool.
Isn't it also because it's far more clear in rhythm?
Yeah, easier to pick up the rhythm, definitely. And somehow perhaps, I guess milonga is closer to a lot of more traditional music in every part of the world. You can kind of probably map it somewhat easier. It does seem to come more naturally that you can pick it up.
The beauty of a lot of tango music is the complexity. But there are people who say, I struggle to dance things with vocals because I get distracted by it, because they struggle to really focus on the rhythm, or they struggle to dance on the melody, and the melody becomes distracting. And that's where milonga probably is really anchored in steps.
Yeah. But then, I'm not sure if I should say this, but this is supposed to have some revelation. So one revelation we can have here about me is that the more I became aware of the sophistication of the music, the less I like dancing milonga. Not because milongas are not sophisticated, but because so many people dance it, removing the sophistication of it. A lot of people still dance milonga similar to how they first learned it, which is just sitting on the rhythm.
Yeah.
And I don't like just going with the rhythm anymore. Like then it feels like salsa or some other dance where you're doing the same thing over and over again. Whereas, you have to move over at some point to the amazing complexity in milongas.
Yeah.
With some people who do hear it, it's amazing. But other times, I think it wears my feet out faster, so it reduces my dancing time.
Yeah.
Plus, it might be just a step dance. So I often sit it out these days. But it's a great tool when you're first learning. It's a good one to get your mind off your feet.
Do you feel the same way about valses?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Waltzes are the same. But waltzes, with all secrets revealed now, I will often
You heard
do
it here first.
a waltz with, like, if I don't know a person's dance, or I definitely know they're not really experienced, then I'll prefer a waltz with them, because they'll often be quite good. You know, they'll hold it well, because again, I think the rhythm is very familiar to at least the Western ear, and it carries you. You know, you don't have to do too much. You can still have a nice feeling dance. So I often, I either sit out the valses, or I use it to dance with people who I might not have danced otherwise. Hopefully it doesn't offend anyone. It's not fully conscious. You're trying to think now.
I'm trying to think, not to say politics.
It's not 100%, but
No.
in general, that's how I think about it.
What are indicators that you might be more selective? Like, is it like milonga? Not at all. It sounds now, and it's like, so you might be very picky on the milonga, and where the valse you sound more forgiving.
Only because it doesn't wear my feet as much as milonga does.
Yeah.
So both waltz and milonga can be very boring if the dancers are not both listening to the depth of the music and just dancing to the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
However, milonga, as well as being boring, it also wears my feet out, because you're taking a lot more steps, right?
And you put more pressure on the floor.
And there's definitely the ball of my foot gets pushed into the floor more often. Yep. So that's I guess why I try to do less milongas, but valses are a good tool. Also, the waltz standards are usually a bit shorter. So if the person is less experienced and they're running out of their repertoire, then it's nice and short. So it feels like a good dance.
And with other music, is it you look around and try to figure out, what music will people have their specific dances for? And so where is the room to catch them?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I can't tell by looking at people.
No, for yourself. So, maybe, let's go extreme, that you're probably picky on a biagi.
I'm very picky on a biagi. Yes. If I don't know the people, I can't tell. But if I'm in a big event, I don't mind. Like in big events, I'm actually possibly less picky, because I'm there for the experience and I'm there for the variety. So I don't worry too much what I dance with who. In the more regular dances, then for biagi, it needs to be someone who, it doesn't need to be. You can still have a good dance with someone who doesn't do any of the syncopas.
No.
But if they do, then it becomes like an extra level of fun, right? What do I look for? Don't know. Like, I can't tell you what I will look for.
But maybe things you prefer of others. Maybe you're not a big fan of Pugliese, or you prefer Desarli, or there are songs, orchestras, where you easier to go with people than others. Are the preferences around that?
Yeah, well, definitely not like Phil, not as picky as Phil. I do genuinely like almost all music. There are very few, not even orchestras, because same orchestra can be different, but there are certain phases of certain orchestras that are really sleepy, so I don't like those. But then I wouldn't. Then it doesn't matter who it is, right? If it's a sleepy tanda. And luckily DJs don't do too many sleepy tandas, but occasionally you get some. And also...
Sorry, does it matter what part of the night that happens then? Because sometimes if a sleepy one is too early in the night, then you might not go for it, where later in the night when you want to slow...
It's worse, then I'll fall asleep.
Oh, you fall asleep. Because
Later is worse, I reckon.
sometimes they play it because people want to slow down, and you're tired, and
Yeah. No, I don't like sleepy anytime.
okay.
Slow is fine. Sleepy doesn't equal slow. Sleepy is sometimes, I know some orchestras have certain pieces, and you don't hear them often in milongas because DJs don't pick them. They just don't have a lot of, the richness of tango isn't in every tango song, I guess. Otherwise, I love Pugliese, and also because of how I started, Pugliese was something we danced a lot to, because we were quite interested in the dynamics of the stretchy nuevo style that we were introduced to, and the possibilities of it. The melody gives you lots of room to move into it.
It's very dramatic as well, so a lot of people like it because it has a stage feeling.
Yeah, you can have a lot of drama in it as well. And Desali is, I just used Desali for teaching for a long, long time because I thought it was so easy to find the clean beat. But later, I can see how rich that is as well. I guess it's amazing how much there is in it. And then what else? I like them all. I love all of it. They're all quite differently good.
But as a genre, you prefer tango over waltz and milonga. It seems clear.
As a general rule, for my own enjoyment, and I dance with everyone. Tango is more secure for me to find the opportunity to express a bit more.
Yeah.
And interact with the leader a bit more. Waltz and milonga requires the leader to be a lot more alert to play with me. So it's good for dancing with people I might not dance often, or if they're new, or if they're a little bit tentative. Sometimes, people can be a bit shy about dancing with more experienced dancers. For all of those situations, actually, milonga and waltz are very good because you've got a nice structure that carries you through the dance. I remember first so many years of my dancing was I purely focused on the leader, and music I barely heard, I'd say. There's the being in the music because I was already dancing, and the whole, what we talked about earlier, that moving to music wasn't a new concept. So I was probably not out of music, but I wasn't really listening to the music for a long time because just following the leader took so much of my headspace. So when I finally found some headspace to trust that I am following enough that I can also start doing something with the music, that was a revolution in my own dance life. And it took a long time, very long time.
You do listen to music?
I absolutely listen to the music. Now I listen to the music more in terms of where my attention is.
Because quite often some followers feel like, well, I don't have to train myself to music so much because the lead will guide me through it. But
for the rhythm, yes. But music is more than the rhythm.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the case. You'll be fine. The leader will put you at the right time. But you said it yourself earlier that dance is between the steps. It totally is between the steps. It's in how you take the step and how you go from one step to another, what happens in your body. And that's where you have to listen to music.
Yes.
How you arrive on that beat is something you need, I think, something you need to do according to the music.
Yes, and so you can only do that if you know the music and listen to the music outside the actual dance.
maybe. I don't know. Well, because I dance so much, I haven't. I can't say I've trained myself to listen to tango at times other than dancing. But because I've been dancing such a long time, and
You know it by now.
often I do know most music by now. But it's probably also partly, as I've confessed earlier, I'm terrible with self-motivation, so something I have to do on my own is very hard.
But it's very clear when someone knows the music, because, like I said, the moments in between, they're allowed to control, and you get a different look, because when someone knows the music, quite often you can have more fun. If someone knows the music and the phrase is catching up, and you pause, and you can feel that she's ready to go, and just hold on for the next.
This test.
It's not. It's just this little fun bit. This one we go. Or the opposite, where you kind of leave the room, and because the music, you can feel that someone feels music, and they play with it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. From the follower's perspective, if I realize that the person is listening to the music and knows the music, then I'm a lot freer to do additional things to the music, because I know that they won't be taken by surprise. If I do a little dibba feet to the music that's about to come, I know that they won't be completely shocked, because they will hear it and they'll know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they'll find a way to accommodate. It's definitely more of a. I think it's probably more musicality than body ability, even, like the ability to accommodate a follower that's expressing parts of the music, which is not the beat. I think comes down to your ear rather than your body.
Part of it, yes.
Mostly.
It's
you obviously
definitely
need
awareness
both.
of the music.
You need both.
Yeah. Each dance has its feel that way. Yes, if you had a dance that was had a very close loop, does that influence the dance you have after, or?
Like in the milonga situation, from one tanda to another. It used to. Don't know if it's as strong anymore. It used to be that sometimes, like, I needed to either like have space after a certain dance, or occasionally, you'll hear people, men and women, they'll say, "Oh, now I can go home now because they've had a really nice dance." I used to have those moments. I don't as much these days. I don't know what it is. Like, maybe there's a certain recovery. It's a recovery, isn't it? It's a recovery after something really nice.
Yeah.
Perhaps I recover faster, perhaps now. I don't know.
But is it the recovery, or is it because, well, it can be two things, because just like I said, the people say, well, I can go home now, because you kind of, it's a fulfillment.
Yeah.
So you could spoil it with the next experience. So it's not necessarily recovery, but
Yeah, well, I use recovery to make an analogy to physical activity. When you do something, run up the stairs, and then initially you need like 5 minutes before you catch your breath again, and then if you're a bit fitter, then you only need 2 minutes to catch your breath again. I was kind of drawing some sort of parallel to that rather than actually recovering from an experience. But yes, the fulfillment-wise, I don't think, I haven't lost fulfillment. I think, I'm able to store that fulfillment faster, maybe.
That's interesting.
Like, or process it deeper and faster, and then I'm ready to move on to another one. It's like most of the time. So it happens a lot less these days. It used to be that I needed a bit more processing time for that fulfillment feeling to kind of sit with me and not like so that the next dance didn't feel like ruining it.
Yeah.
Because it's not fair to the person you're dancing with next to, to put them this weight of I just had this amazing dance and you have to live up, so
You don't hold the sign up.
but people watch each other,
Yeah,
you can sometimes see,
But, it can sometimes take months for people to find tango bliss. So if they, some people go on a trip and have it once, and sometimes it happens every night. It's like,
yeah.
But if you have it, you might want to sit down.
Yeah. No, as I said, for some, I haven't thought about it in depth, but yeah, I can store. I think it's the storage. I can hold on to the fulfillment in me in a different place without it being in danger of being ruined by the next dance.
Oh, that's nice because it gives you more opportunities. over
Exactly.
the
Well,
night.
then I can keep dancing.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
If I don't catch someone's eye, I rarely interpret it as something negative about me.
No, because it could be the wrong tanda.
Well, in fact it's quite a thing. Like with leaders, I think if the leader doesn't like a song, I don't want to dance with them. Like
No,
seriously, it's so boring and not nice for both of us. Like if you don't like the music, let's not do it. So I've learned that late, well, somewhat late in dance, but I realize it makes a huge difference. So, if they're not looking, maybe they really don't like the music. Or maybe they really, really only want to dance with some other person. And that's fine too.
Yeah. It's you can't dance with everyone, and you have to, and some people feel better in certain tandas. You might like the music, but if you look at someone and think, well, especially if you, like you said, you already dance with someone. So if someone rather dances pugliese with you, he might try his luck there.
Which might happen as well. Like it does happen with some people.
Yeah.
That I do end up dancing more than once. And it's usually because we've had a dance while we could to some music. And then something comes up where we're like, oh, yeah, this is really the drama that I need tonight.
And you're the right person
and
for
you're
it.
the right person.
Don't you love those ones? Because that often is the best cabeceo, because you only need a blink of an eye then.
Yeah, because you're both thinking the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be, preferably, because then it's bang.
Yeah, but I mean, it has to. I'm in two minds about it, because it can also be quite limiting if you only ever dance certain tandas with certain people, because after a while you'll fill up all your tanda quota and then you missed out on a whole lot of light. I talked about every person has their own light.
Yeah.
You missed out on a whole lot of things. Like I've had so many experiences where I took a chance on someone with even something with Biaggi and got extremely delighted. Like, wow, I would have completely missed out on that if I'd gone to the known person who I knew would do a good Biaggi. So, yeah, I don't know, in moderation.
Yeah.
I guess.